Hey beautiful people, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. For today's video, I am finally giving you guys my review slash first impressions thoughts on the Byredo, it's not a radio, on the Byredo Bibliophilia palette. Honestly, that is a tongue twister. I don't know how else to say it. But if you know, you know, Byredo releases one giant palette every year. It's kind of what Pat McGrath used to do when it came to her motherships. But I guess she doesn't do that anymore. Do we know? Anyways, so they released one giant palette here. Now, Byredo is not exactly a brand that I consistently check for in terms of I'm not looking to them for makeup throughout the year. And I think partly because I don't really see them as a primarily makeup brand. They have a lot of great fragrances. When it comes to other products that they're releasing, it's definitely in that luxury price point and not necessarily what I'm looking for. Not to say that it's bad, but every year when they release these giant limited edition palettes, I am all in, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, the price point of this is exceptional, especially considering how much they charge for their smaller 5-pan palettes. The value in this is absolutely phenomenal. I do think a little bit of the limited edition factor gets me as well, because, I mean, they really do mean limited edition, because it's this one palette for the year. When it's gone, it doesn't restock. So having only very limited opportunity to get this always gets me. So per usual, what I'm going to do, give you guys some product details. I will insert some swatches so you can see what it looks like on my complexion. Again, I'm a medium deep with a yellow or a golden undertone. I'm going to be demoing 2 looks for you guys, and then I will come back at the end to give you guys my final thoughts and wrap everything up. So without further ado, because I don't want this intro to be super long, let's dive into product details. So again, we're kicking this off with the Byredo Bibliophilia palette. As you can see, it has this sort of reflective metallic packaging where you can actually see everything. Now, this is cute. It's consistent with what they've done in the past, but it is very prone to fingerprints. This is a fingerprinty palette, period, point blank. And I should also mention that this palette is the same kind of packaging that they've had for previous years. I do have 3 of the old limited edition palettes, and I will I will hold them up at the end so you guys can see what they look like comparatively. I'm not going to do swatches on all of those. I don't got the time, but I will hold them up so you can see how the color stories differ. But continuing on, again, it's this metallic reflective packaging. This year, the image on it is this almost like crumpled up piece of newspaper. And then once you flip it to the back, you have the shades, including the shade names here, and a little bit of product details. So what I can tell you from the back of the palette, there's also a box that it comes in. Y'all don't really care about that. But what I can tell you is that this was made in Italy. It has a 12-month shelf life, and you get 30 grams of product. And that's pretty much all they include other than the images of the shade names. So let's open this baby up. Da, 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 da. So as you can see, you get a pretty large mirror right here. Hi guys. Pretty large mirror, the Byredo logo, and that's because I haven't peeled off the reflective, like the protective cover on it yet. But what you really care about is this. This is the color story. So if you know, you know. You can probably already tell what excited me about this is that this is a pretty neutral palette. And my sort of preference as of late has been in that sort of neutral, spicy, neutral vein. So when I saw this and this red, these reds, y'all, I was like, yes, this is mine. I absolutely must have it. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some other items in terms of product details. So on the website, the brand describes this as being designed to allow for experimentation, and the shades are highly buildable and blendable, whether you choose to apply it with a brush or with your fingertips. It lasts up to 12 hours and is smudge proof up to 12 hours. In terms of what you're getting, there are 18 shades in 3 different finishes: creamy metallic, luxury, luminous satin, and velvety matte. And what else you should know about this is that it has a soft, creamy, and gliding texture, vibrant and highly pigmented colors, and a lightweight texture as well. And finally, let's talk about it, the price. This palette will retail for $115. This is consistent with, I believe, last year as well. I think when this originally started, it was under 100, maybe 99, but somewhere in the 90s. It was never cheap, okay? But it does retail for $115 currently. Now, to put that into perspective, the typical Byredo palettes come in 5 pans, and those retail for $75. So again, the value is there because if you're paying $75 for 5 shades and you're getting 18 shades for $115, the math is mathing. So definitely, if you are someone that's interested in trying the Byredo formula, this is where I would recommend you invest your money, and in terms of the best value, and the quality is no different. Quite frankly, might actually be a little bit better in this limited edition palette compared to the regular 5-pan palettes. All right, now that you guys have heard all of the product details, hopefully I would have popped up some swatches so you can see what it looks like on my complexion by now. If not, here they are. Now let's go ahead and dive into the demo so you can see what it looks like on my complexion, and then I'll come back at the end and give you guys my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm starting the day late, and I have a full list of things to do this Saturday. So here's, we're gonna jump in and we're gonna keep it simple. Now I wanna focus on a neutral look today. So honestly, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with this shade, and then this shade. I think that's it. There are no shade names, and are these all shimmers? They all look like shimmers. That's the thing about these Byredo palettes, is that you have to look very, very closely to figure out what's a shimmer, what's a matte. Outside of like the very obvious ones, some of these like satin shades, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, so let's go in with this one, because I think this is the only one that I know is safely a matte. And as you can tell, I haven't swatched anything yet. So I'm just going directly into the crease with this one. Oh, she's pigmented. Let's go. And I prime my eyes with my Pat McGrath eyeshadow base, which has quickly become my absolute favorite. I think this is gonna be the one that I stick to, you guys, because it creates a really nice sort of layer for shadow without changing the color of my lids. So I have previously been a very staunch like concealer girly, but I haven't used concealer in honestly months since I've started using this Pat McGrath primer. Now it's not cheap, so hopefully during her Black Friday sale I can get 1 or 2 more at like a discount. This is really pretty. No, I will say I thought this was going to be a little bit more mauve, but it's kind of orange. It's a lot warmer than I thought. Not mad at it though, still very, very nice. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna go in with this brown. So I want to see how much depth I can get from this. This does look like it has a lot of shine to it, and it's not super matte. But I also don't want a crazy dark outer corner, which is why I'm not going into that other brown next to it. Yeah, this does have a bit of a sheen to it. But I like. But she is satin. She is not a matte shade. Jeez Louise. I do need to swatch this. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the mattes that are gonna ground this look. And like I said, I want to go in with this coppery gold shimmer. Oh, wow. Okay, that is stunning. Do I want to put this all over the lid? Do I want to go in with 2 shimmer shades? Dang, the pigment. Since we are demoing, I think I can add 1 more shimmer just for demonstration purposes, because I'm only giving you guys 2 looks with this palette because I have such a backlog of products that I need to film with. Now, regular me would just go in with this 1 shade all over the lids. So I actually think, now this looks really, really sparkly. I think I'm gonna go in with this one. It looks a little bit less intense. Still very, very, very bright. But I think we could just plop that in here, blend that into that first sort of orange, gold, coppery shade. Soften it up. Love is hard to find sometimes. Wrote a song about it. Now I know my heart is fine, and I just hope you get that. Not bad, not bad. Okay, let me go ahead and clean this up, and I'll come back and show you guys a final look. Alcohol and cigarettes is early death, but something about it calms you down. And now you
feeling so alone. Never been in a city that ever felt like home. And you don't really know why.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the second look. I'm actually gonna start by going into this, it's like neutral brown shade. And I wanna use that as my transition shade, so I'm gonna put that directly into the crease. Next, I'm going into the darkest shade in the palette. And we're gonna start plopping that into the outer corner. Ooh, blending that into the first shade. This is giving really good depth.
I was living in the moment, caring about my own shit, being the person I thought I was. I should have owned it, danced around the throne.
Now, of course, you know I want to play in these reds. I'm actually going to go into the deepest red. This does have a bit of a black base to it, so I want to pick that up, and I want to start like in the outer part of the eye, kind of blending it into that blackish brown. Just to see what we're working with. And this is really nice, and if you have it's not getting muddy as I usually do, and it's not losing that red. Now I low-key want to go into all four. Can I do that? Okay, let's try it. I'm gonna take a little bit of this one. See, that doesn't have the same amount of shine, so I'm gonna have to go over that. Anyways, with that same brush, flipping it over, going into that bright red. This really is the standout shade in this palette. And that's gonna be the inner part of the lid. Actually, I'm gonna take my finger. There we go. Maximum payoff. It works with a brush if you want a bit of a diffused look, or if you want to slowly build, but I know I want that punch, so.
Can I be your bestie and your best friend?
Oh, that is everything. If you know me, you know I love red. You know I'm a sucker for a good, bright, fiery red. And this is genuinely that. Thank you. Okay, Byredo.
Can I be your bestie and your best friend?
Okay, this is the look, and I am obsessed. Let me go ahead and clean this up, and I'll come back and show you guys the final look.
We can be the bestie and the bestie. Can I be your bestie and your best friend? Can I be the bestie and the bestie? I know that my style, them no cheap. Yeah, your girlfriend says she want it. Yeah, come up with more with it.
All right, guys, welcome back, and we are about to wrap things up. I want to flag quickly that what I'm wearing on my eyes is absolutely not the Byredo palette. I actually filmed those looks and ran out of time to do this intro and the outro, so I just threw on this quick face just so I could do this. Okay, so let's talk about it. I love it. I love this palette. Everything from the color story, which I absolutely just, it is what my heart and soul needs right now, to the formulation, because I do think that the mattes here are beautiful, gorgeous, and the satins are stunning, because they do have a little bit of a sheen to it, but you can blend it out and use it as a matte, and that again is something that I find not a lot of brands know how to do well. Pat McGrath does it really well, and Byredo does it really exceptionally as well. In terms of the shimmers, I don't know, but this seems to me to have way more punch and pigment and color impact than the previous palettes from this sort of limited edition line. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when I put this on my eyes and when I was like, oh wow, this isn't as soft and as subtle as I thought it was gonna be, this is giving va va voom, I was impressed. Color me impressed. So in terms of pigment and punch, I definitely want to say this is great. And as someone with a deeper complexion, I do want to point out that these shades look stunning on my skin tone. So I don't think that they're really dusty or anything like that. I really appreciate it. Now, are there some similar shades in this palette? Yeah, I can see that. But I think once you step back from looking at it as just similar shades and really think about it through the different finishes in this palette and the versatility there, it makes it worth it, because you're not just getting similar mattes. Like, you might get a similar color, but it might be the difference between it being this velvety matte and this satin formula. So I do see the importance of having that versatility in formulation there. So would I recommend this? Honestly, you guys know how I feel about pricey palettes, but I do 100% think that this one is worth it for the price point, you guys. So it's a good one in my book. What I'm actually planning to do immediately after this, because I've had a couple of you guys ask me outright, is whether I would prefer or recommend this versus the new Natasha Denona palette. And I understand that question because both of those palettes are very neutral. They came out about the same time. Both are sort of in that luxury brand category. So I'm going to do an entirely separate video comparing the two so you guys could understand where my thoughts are. Because I do have thoughts. And I do have opinions. But I want to give you guys all of the details so you can make a decision for yourself. All right, now before we wrap this up, because you guys can already tell I love this, I do want to hold this up to some of the older palettes in this limited edition sort of line that Byredo has. Not necessarily to show you guys what's new or what's different, but just so they can see it, because even though I'm holding it up to these old ones, they don't exist anymore. You can't purchase them, but if you do have them in your collection, maybe it's helpful for you to see it side by side before you decide if you want to buy this one. All right, I can't even remember what order these were released in. I think I do. Okay, so first up we have the most recent release, or the one from last year, and that is the Mineral Escapes palette. So this one, you can see they have like these rocks. So this is how it looks compared to the Bibliophilia in terms of packaging. I think this might be my least favorite packaging. I think it is. And let's open, what was this one called? Mineral Escapes up. Dun, 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 dun. And this is such a super interesting palette, and it was perfect for those folks that liked cool tones. Like, this was definitely more, and I'm saying colorful with like a grain of salt, because it truly isn't a colorful palette, but I would say it was certainly more colorful than what you would typically expect from some of these high-end luxury palettes. The other thing too with this palette is that they said, take all of the shimmer. Most of the shades in this palette were shimmer shades. So, and I'm talking about like true shimmers, like some satiny, but definitely the bulk of this palette was shimmers. I think there are only 2 true mattes in this palette. So is this my favorite? Absolutely not, but it was such a good one, and such a unique and different palette that I think any of us were expecting. So compared to Bibliophilia, let's just hold these two up. You can already see the difference. Bibliophilia, very warm, very neutral. Mineral Escapes, very cool toned, very blue, with some pops of green in there. So definitely night and day in terms of these two palettes. Next up, we have the Remembrance palette. This is probably also not one of my favorite in terms of packaging. I don't know what this was. Some kind of Greek goddess. No, I don't like it. But let's open this baby up. Dun, 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 dun. This was also a really beautiful one. In terms of the color story, I would say this was more of a rose / pinky color story. And this might actually be the one that's most closely or similar to the Bibliophilia. So just holding it up for you guys to see, you can see a lot of these shades lean very rosy, very peachy, pinky, with just 2 sort of silver shades that to me seemed very odd in this palette. Unlike the Mineral Escapes, I do think that this one had a nicer balance of the matte to shimmer formula. So way more mattes in this palette. And I do think that the mattes that they chose had a pretty decent depth in terms of my complexion. So really good sort of like these would all work as transition shades for me, and a nice really rich chocolate brown as a deepening up shade. I remember using this one and I really loved it too. So you can get really deep kind of smoky looks with this one, but also something really light. Again, the only thing that stood out to me is like why, and it didn't make a ton of sense, were these two silvers. And yeah, I didn't understand. I still don't understand it today. And they're both shimmers. I would say this one is probably more of a toppery shimmer, and this one is like a standard shimmer, but I didn't understand the shimmers in this palette. Anyway, let's hold this one up to Bibliophilia. I will never say that right. I don't know why I'm struggling. So here we have Remembrance compared to Bibliophilia. As you can see, still very, very different. Clearly, these are both neutral leaning, but very, very different color stories. And looking at these side by side now, I would actually say Bibliophilia has a much sort of richer shades in it, much darker or melanin-friendly shades compared to Remembrance. And lastly, this is the first palette I purchased from this limited edition line, and this is the Flora Kalahari palette, which I think is my favorite packaging. And here you can see that compared to the Bibliophilia. Yeah, that rose was absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so, oh, yeah, this might be my I'm trying to figure out if this is my favorite color story. I absolutely loved this one. Now, similar to the Mineral Escapes one, I do think that this one has more shimmers than it does mattes, so that stood out. I'm looking at this red now, and I'm wondering how similar that is to the red in this one. I'm not going to swatch it because I just really don't want to, but this was a beautiful, warm color story. I think this is what got me started on like, wow, I need to try more of this Byredo, because I loved the versatility of that palette, particularly because of the differences in the uniqueness in terms of the finishes of those shimmer shades. All right, now let's hold these two up together. So here we have Flora Kalahari against Bibliophilia. Again, very, very different color stories. This one has a little bit more color to it, I would say, or just a little bit, it's a little bit more eccentric. This one, I think, feels a little bit more cohesive in terms of, like, this is for the neutral girlies. Very simple, very basic. Like, yeah. But I'm very glad that I have all of these so far. You know what? Something that I'm realizing looking at this palette now, and so two last things I want to point out before I rewrap today's video. One thing I appreciate in terms of the packaging of this palette is the fact that there's no real wasted space. If you look at it, all of the shades are so close together, like you don't have a ton of wasted space in this palette, so you get these giant pans that are filled to the brim with product. And one thing I'm realizing looking at this right now head on is I feel like they arrange this almost as like 2 9 pans. So if you were to cover this half of the palette, I feel like you get this beautiful, cool toned 9 pan color story. And that is just absolutely gorgeous. And then if you cover this half of the pan, you get another beautiful, cool, warm 9 pan story. And I think that that's just kind of cool and something I literally just caught. Okay, so I will have all of the places where you can purchase this linked down below, because there are a couple of different places you can buy it, including the Byredo website, I think Nordstrom, Selfridges, Harrods, all of that. There are multiple places that you can pick this up. If any of those retailers are having like a 15% off sale, definitely recommend it. I don't think I've seen it go on sale in terms of on the Byredo website, but all of that will be linked down below. Now, I do want to hear from you guys. Let me know if you picked this up. Let me know if you're planning to pick this up. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, also leave that in the comments box below. And if you don't know what to comment, as always, go ahead and leave an orange heart or any color heart that you want to. All of that engagement does help the channel. And apparently, YouTube has this new hype up feature. If you see that, hype up the video. I don't know what it means. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm going to try to see because it seems like a cool feature. So as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate y'all so much more than you know, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye, guys.